Thanks for being out here showing you're proud of America. Proud of what America does all around the world.
For me, love of country is what patriotism is about. To have a just and peaceful and sustainable future for our country and for the world, because we know that the skies are just as blue in other places and people love their countries as much as we love ours.
There's a deeper patriotism to which people can be called, which says, there's no country that's always right, but the country you live in, you've got to make a commitment to make it as good as you can make it. And that commitment to look at the good and the bad and to be willing to stand up to the bad, but also to stand up for the good.
Patriotism really means to love your country enough to be able to criticize those people who are violating it. To love your country doesn't require you to blindly follow the leader.
America Around the World is brought to us by Up With America, which seeks to promote understanding between countries and highlights America's contributions to world culture. This is the first time they've been in this parade. The giant globe shows our American presence around the world and the many flight paths for travel and free trade. Get ready to be liberated.
And I thought, well, this is very strange. Oh, these folks are not like the rest of these other folks. Just such a powerful statement.
I come out in favor of our country. I love our country. I think we've been greatly blessed with so many resources, so much freedom, so many rights. And I'd like to push for our country to be careful, not to tread on the rights of people in other countries. And sometimes I see that happening, and it keeps me in the street.
I believe that there's a higher patriotism. I believe that the world in our generation is integrating as a single unit. In the last 50 years, for the first time in all of recorded history, the 6,000 different ethnic groups and language systems and tribes and societies and nations are coming together as one unit.
Also increasingly in the sense we have of a global community. You can't separate our fate from the fate of any other people. But not only is it immoral to continue on this path of empire, but it's simply unsustainable. We cannot live like this forever. Our fate is too tied to the fate of people around the world.
Why is everything on so many different fronts, on issues of justice, on issues of the environment, on issues related to education, labor, peace, or is it war is such a huge thing? And a lot of it is follow the money.
Money makes the world go round, the world go round, the world go round. Money makes the world go round, it makes the world go round.
We have the freedom to profit.
I'm Profit Man, making the world safe for capitalism. What makes my job easy is the enormous gap between what American consumers know and what's really going on in the world.
There has been a sort of global coup that has taken place, which has overthrown democracy almost everywhere. A shift of power away from the people and towards capital.
The affluence of this culture would not be possible without the empire. The level at which we live is literally built on the backs of people all around the world. And it's important to remember what that world looks like.
The poor majority is really losing out to benefit a very small elite that works closely with U.S. intelligence and corporate and military and diplomatic interests. And it's a very sad story, and I don't think it's a liberal or conservative or even political issue. I think it's a human issue. I think it's a moral issue. You know, you go way back to the Bible. Our Bible says again and again that the poor are oppressed and the poor are robbed by the rich.
What we've really managed to do since World War II is create the world's first truly global empire. We've done it through economics rather than through the military for the most part, and most Americans aren't aware of it. It's been done in secret, and therefore it's a huge threat.
I've really dedicated my life to trying to find ways that we hear the voices of other people in different parts of the globe, that we see their perspectives, because the world is very different when viewed from other people's eyes.
U.S. people should come out to see the world. I mean, all these are just misunderstanding and myth. And if that is addressed, or people break that barrier, everything else is just so easy.
As America, we have to admit, does affect the rest of the world. But the problem is, America is totally ignorant of the rest of the world. So it's something that's influencing the rest of the world is totally ignorant about it, and that will piss anyone off. Do you know what I mean?
I love American people, but I don't like American government.
Don't destroy. Love should have universal love, have compassion.
อยากจะถามเพราะว่าเสื้อผ้าที่เขาใส่สวยๆ
I would like to ask the consumers in USA that how do you feel when you wear the beautiful, expensive clothes, while on the other hand, this it makes from the workers suffering.
Workers' rights. It just went up way. They tell us good things like our wages.
We're out here in front of the Gap because we want to thank the Gap for paying their workers in Thailand just a little bit more this year. You know, in the old days, like last year, a sweatshirt that they're charging $40 for, they paid $1.40 for.
They sell their goods, they could cut wood, laughing all the way.
Sweatshop Christmas.
Americans don't understand how we're viewed in the world, how we're 5% of the population using up 25% of the world's resources, and how our government policies have reflected that grab for other people's resources. And you know what? People in the rest of the world don't like that. Well, my first trip to Central America was to Guatemala. And I met people there who started saying to me, do you know what your country did to our country in the 50s when we elected democratically a government that the United States didn't like? Your government overthrew our government. And I was saying, well, why would we do a thing like that?
United Fruit Company and some others had control of a lot of land in Guatemala. So one of the things the government tried to do was to readjust the economic system so that it served the common people of the country. And this provoked a very harsh reaction from the U.S. government. And there was a military coup, a military overthrow of the elected government that was backed by our Central Intelligence Agency and our State Department.
That's not an unusual case because there's case after case. So many instances where the U.S. government has overthrown other governments because they weren't representing our interests.
A lot will depend in the rest of the world on what happens in the United States itself, and what happens in the United States itself will depend to a certain extent on what's happening elsewhere. So there's, if you like, a dialectical interrelationship. I always say to people in the United States, we depend on you, because you live in the heart of the empire. What you do makes a difference. So when you have nearly 1 million people in New York marching against the war, 750,000 people in San Francisco marching against the war, demonstrations in every state capital. It has a big impact on the world, and a good impact, because this is the America they never see. The America they see is the America which is dropping bombs on cities, taking over countries, intervening when they want to. That's the America people see. Or the other America is then the America of Starbucks and McDonald's. But the America which the outside world very rarely sees is dissenting America. And there's a strong tradition of dissent in the United States. And this has to be revived, and it is being revived.
Because capital is so fluid and able to move so easily across the face of the planet, it's not going to be easy to build this kind of consumer-worker alliance that needs to happen. But nothing else is going to work, and so we need to get serious about it. And we have had enough successes to think, this does work. We can work harder at this, and we'll be more successful and make a big difference in the lives of millions of people.
If I really want something to change, I think that I should be able to have to do it.
We like these sweatshirts very much, but we find that they're not coinciding with our morals. The Burmese Democracy Act that the President signed on August 1st, 2003 states that no articles can be made, manufactured in Burma, because Burma is infamous for their sweatshops, which directly support the military dictatorship.
It's basically like slave labor. We don't even know, but it's probably child labor too. It's against human rights.
So we're asking that you don't carry them anymore.
All right, well, I will pass this on.
Okay, thank you very much.
And you can feel free to return your sweatshirts. This will help you out. There you go.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care.
No problem.
I work with banana workers a lot in Central and South America, and now you go there and you see what their daily lives are like, and they're working for a corporation whose profits end up back in the United States or in Europe. And you can say, well, okay, what is the connection between the person who picked and planted my banana and put it in a box and then that ends up at my grocery store? What is my relationship to that? And in order to have those kind of politics, we have to deal with racism, because we can't think that somehow people in China are different creatures that want to live on a bowl of rice. Or we can't think that somehow Mexicans just want to live on rice and beans and they don't want the same thing as we do. We have to have a sense that we're all people that have similar human values, and that corporate values do not observe those.
Almost everything we buy had some interaction with a poor person very far away. And even if you don't do anything on a global scale, anything politically active, you're still, every time you buy something, you're interacting with that person. So fair trade is an easy way to make that an ethical interaction.
Hallelujah! Hey, Gallagher, now that sweatshop Carter. But as we back away from the product, something happens. Something good happens. What do we call it? We don't know what to call it. Somebody might say it's a spiritual awakening. They might call it the revolution.
Someone said, in resistance is the secret of joy. We're having fun, and we are having more fun than they are. Resistance includes developing alternatives, developing new institutions, and then when the old ones collapse, which they're bound to eventually, these other ways of relating and organizing ourselves will be intact.
I knock on doors and I say, hi, my name is Riley, I'm from Peace Action. This is what's going on in the world. Do you want to do something about it? And if they say yes, I'm like, all right, well, here's the things you can do. Here are the numbers you can call. Here are the ways you can get involved. Here are the places you can donate to. People are always like, how do you get change to happen? How do you get change to happen? There's something magical about change. It happens. But it happens when you become aware of what's going on. And so I think that, I have a lot of faith in what you're doing. I have a lot of faith in media.
People have tremendous energy, and I quote in the book Margaret Mead saying, never doubt for a moment that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has.
I do think that Americans are compassionate people if we know.
more than ever, we need to work together with other countries. And I just don't think we can exist in a world if we put ourselves above everybody else.
Sometimes I think if people had a better understanding of what we're doing in the American people's name, that they also would be out in the street, because I feel like we're good people and we would want our country to be doing good.
We today are in a unique position. Let's not collapse, let's get rid of the empire, but let's not collapse the systems around it. Let's use those systems to reach out to the world. We can work to create a world that truly will bring peace and prosperity and stability to people all over the world. And that's where we must go. That's the new revolution.